Is it recording? Yes, it's recording. Hi there. This is Atilla Yaşalada presenting for Real Turkey channel with shitty sound quality and visuals and no production quality whatsoever, which has become the hallmark of this channel. Today we're going to talk about Mr. Erdogan's efforts to completely silence the social media. And of course, we want to understand why he wants to do that. Of course, there is a stated reason and an ulterior motive. I'll cover both. And at the end, I'm going to comment whether he's going to succeed. And believe me, this is a video with happy ending because Turkish social media cannot be silenced. And at the end, it's going to be the downfall of Mr. Erdogan. I I was checking my channel stats this morning and I realized I haven't shot a video, well actually a podcast because there is no visuals really, except the ones that I make up to fill the screen, that I haven't shot a podcast for 3 weeks. It's not because I'm busy. I mean, I'm almost retired. I have nothing else to do. But it's so much fun to watch Turkey if you have a macabre sense of humor. There is just a new event that would surprise even the most fantastic scenario writers in Hollywood. For instance, let's take a look at this picture. The Saudi Arabian media spread this picture showing Crown Prince Mr. Mohammed bin Salman shaking hands with our president Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, both dirty, rotten scoundrels as far as I'm concerned. And I think the impression that the Saudi media is trying to give is that Mr. Mohammed bin Salman came to Turkey as a victorious general to accept the unconditional surrender of Erdogan, which is true, by the way, because only a few months ago, Mr. Erdogan was swearing that he will never establish diplomatic relations with Saudi Arabia as long as it refuses to account for the murder of the dissident journalist, Mr. Kemal Khashoggi. He was brutally murdered, dismembered, and his body parts burned. We still don't know where his remains are. And do you know where that happened? It happened in the Saudi embassy in Istanbul. And of course, that drove Mr. Erdogan mad, and he blamed all the other Muslim countries for being silent in the face of such a devastating atrocity simply because they need Saudi Arabia's dollars. And today, I'm sorry, it's Mr. Erdogan who needs Mohammed bin Salman's dollars. So he did a complete face about. First, he went to Riyadh to meet him, where the Saudi Arabian media said he was not really welcome. And then Mr. Mohammed bin Salman came to Turkey for other reasons. And of course, he's not going to give Erdogan a penny. Or you have a president who calls feminists bitches, sürtük. Honestly, this is the word he uses, bitches. I mean, imagine Biden or Schulz, I suppose, the new German, chancellor, or even Boris Johnson, who's a scoundrel himself, calling women bitches. He would be pilloried, not in Turkey. People just shrug and say, well, it's Erdogan. There's nothing we can do. Anyhow, let's get back to the subject. Otherwise, I'll be here all day talking about Turkey, which probably I should. I should do a live broadcast. Okay, here is our cover again. Okay, this is the story. President Erdogan's alliance, consisting of two parties, AKP-MHP, introduced a Disinformation Prevention Act to the parliament, which is so oppressive. Some of AKP and MHP deputies or congresspeople are hesitant to support it. Why is it oppressive? Well, let me show you another report here. That's by Stockholm Center for Freedom, a reliable international human rights watchdog. And let me summarize while you read the article on the screen. A, it defines a crime called spreading disinformation. It defines the crime, but doesn't explain what it is, how it's going to be assessed, or who is going to do the assessing. For instance, my name is Atilla Yeşilada. I have an English as well as a Turkish YouTube channel. One day I said in my broadcast that the Turkish Central Bank is bankrupt. It has no foreign exchange reserves left. Turkey is facing a currency crisis. Is this disinformation? Am I going to be asked to prove it in a court of law? And do the judges know anything about economics or finance to decide whether I'm spreading disinformation or merely stating an opinion with a lot of truth behind it? Are they going to form an expert panel of economists to judge me? Because after all, I ought to be judged by my peers, and my peers are economists. Or are we going to introduce expert witnesses? So, the prosecution brings someone who says, well, he's a complete liar. I mean, central bank has a lot of FX reserves. Mr. Atilla Yeşilada is lying, and my expert is going to say, well, wait a second, some of these reserves are complete window dressing. I'm sorry, let me make sure that sound quality is better. That my expert is going to say these reserves are complete window dressing. They cannot be used to defend Turkish lira against excessive weakening. And moreover, the culprits, people or news agencies or social media channels accused of spreading such malicious information are now subject to prison terms up to 3 years. The Turkish journalists call it a dark stain on Turkish journalism. Boys, girls that train passed years ago. Turkish journalism has been killed by Mr. Erdogan. Moreover, of course, it introduces penalties for the social media platforms who publish this stuff. Their bandwidth can be reduced. They may be forbidden to accept advertising, etc., etc. It's really draconian. Essentially, this is a censorship law. What Mr. Erdogan is saying is that I am criminalizing the entire social media ecosystem. If you put up something, or if you put up content that I don't like, I'm going to use my influence on Turkish courts to put you in a slammer for 3 years and throw the keys away. Moreover, if some of the social media platforms are stupid enough to accept this content, I'm going to go after them too. Obviously, this kills social media because either, you know, social media companies will start suffering losses because they won't be able to accept advertising, or uh, they will have to self censor content which is not criminal or offensive or harmful to the society in their home countries or in 99% of the world, but is deemed to be so in Turkey. Uh, I'm hearing rumors, which I can't verify, that at least one major social media outlet is planning to pull out of Turkey if that bill passes. It may not pass, because as I've said, even Erdogan's own backbenchers are saying, Jesus, this is crazy. I mean, if we ever lose the power, the opposition is going to use it against us and we're all going to be in prison. But Mr. Erdogan is not a man who can be reasoned with. His ostentatious reason for hating social media is because he thinks it's evil. It corrupts the Turkish youth. How does it do so? Well, probably by encouraging gay, lesbian, trans, etc. behavior, by promoting Judaism, I suppose, or Christianity, by proselytizing people, or by advocating free premarital sex, or drugs, or rock and roll. I have no idea. Now, that's very rich coming from a man whose closest advisors and lieutenants have three separate armies of paid trolls. They are called AK trolls, short for AK Party trolls. There are 10,000 to 40,000 people who are being paid regularly for disseminating pro AKP, pro Erdogan information on all social media outlets. And moreover, they also gang up on the content they don't like and essentially just, persecute the poor guy or gal who has the temerity to issue content that Mr. Erdogan doesn't like or is in opposition to Mr. Erdogan's statements. So there must be another reason. Well, there are two reasons. First, Mr. Erdogan, after a 10-year struggle, finally established complete domination over Turkish mainstream media, both the press and TV stations. According to international reports, up to 85% of media outlets by viewership or by, you know, daily sales are now pro AKP, controlled by pro AKP bosses and just spew out pro Erdogan, pro AKP, pro MHP uh, information. Moreover, the remaining few opposition newspapers and TV outlets are constantly being harassed. In terms of press, the journalists and the columnists are constantly being accused of fictitious crimes. They are being dragged from court to court. Sometimes they're arrested and put in prison. One of the latest examples is 11 Kurdish journalists being put in prison, once again, you know, on the excuse of spreading malicious information. For TV outlets, the job falls upon RTÜK, the Radio and Television Oversight Board, which is actually the pro government media censorship institution. If an opposition TV station broadcasts content that Erdogan doesn't like, next day it's slapped with heavy fines. I mean, these fines are so heavy. They are usually 1 year or more of operating profit. Essentially, they're meant not to punish the TV station or discourage a repeat of the offense, but to bankrupt them so they won't be able to broadcast. So, why does he need to silence social media? Very simple. No one follows mainstream media anymore. In particular, the first time voters, which are roughly 6 million, so roughly 12% of the total voting population, are social media fanatics as everywhere in the world. Let's look at Turkey's social media stats here. This is in Turkish, but the previous paragraph, this is from Aksoy Research Agency, by the way, and it was published in Turkish opposition newspaper Cumhuriyet. It says 80% of the adult population uses social media. And look at this the penetration rate. WhatsApp 93%. Never mind, it's still not a social media platform. But Instagram 92%, Facebook 78, Twitter 69. Where is yeah, Telegram, even Snapchat, I don't know what Snapchat is all about, is attended by 37% of the population. The mainstream media, both the pro AKP portion and the opposition, has become so dull, so boring, so devoid of any real content that people are now getting their information from social media. And social media in Turkey is the Wild West. I'll be the first to admit it. I mean, anyone who watches this broadcast probably lives in the social media ecosystem and it understands, fake information, really hazardous content which cannot be censored and filtered, uh, marketing and pyramid schemes parading as content, fine. Social media needs regulations to make sure that it serves the audience without harming its well being or interest. But in Turkey, that's not the problem. The reason for trying to silence social media is because when people watch, read, or listen to social media, they understand what a silly job Erdogan has done in terms of managing the Turkish economy. You want one proof about how he screwed up Turkish economy? Let me show you a chart. This is in Turkish too, but this is from the monthly official central bank survey of expectations. So central bank polls experts each month and asks them what is their prediction of inflation in the red line is in 12 months and blue line is in 24 months. Look at this, man. It has gone exponential. And that's all due to Erdogan, which refuses to deploy tight fiscal or monetary policy to stop inflation because he doesn't believe in them. So, people feel that, of course, on the street. But there's a lot of stupid stuff like, inviting Mohammed bin Salman, even though he's a bloody murderer, to Turkey because Erdogan is going to beg him for a fistful of dollars. And to understand what really goes on in that meeting and why Erdogan suddenly forgave Mohammed bin Salman, whom he called a criminal a few months ago, you go to social media. And social media has been very effective in terms of cutting down AKP's support. Let me show you the latest poll results. This is in English, I hope. Look at the bottom column here. AKP plus its ally MHP have 40% of the total vote. That's after undecideds or no votes are distributed according to raw votes to parties. So the opposition has 60%. It has a 20% or 20-point margin of victory over the AKP-MHP. With elections to be held at most within a year, AKP and MHP have no chance, not even the chance of a snowflake in hell, to overcome this disadvantage. Simply because Turkish people are starving, they're suffering from hyperinflation, and when they want to know why, they go to social media, and social media tells them the truth. People like me. So Mr. Erdogan needs to silence social media. Well, will he? After establishing complete hegemony, or dominion over mainstream media, will he also tame social media? No, don't worry about it. First of all, we have so many laws like that on the books, and they haven't shown any effect whatsoever. Now, some of you are very familiar with Turkey may say, wait a second, that's not true. Because of anti-Erdogan postings on Twitter, for instance, roughly 5,000 people per year are being persecuted. Fine, but that's only a drop in a bucket. I mean, let me show you the penetration rates here. Look, 70% of the adult population, that's roughly 7 times 6, 42 million, 45 million people use Twitter. And at least other polls show at least 15% post dissident posts, and only a couple of thousand of them are persecuted. So, so far, while I have been tried and acquitted of disseminating false information about the currency market, how one manipulates the currency market, I have no idea because my total net worth is something like, a couple $100,000. I'm not Soros or Rockefeller or, I don't know, Mark Mobius. Anyhow, obviously, people are being persecuted for putting stuff on social media, but it's not pervasive. They can't catch all of them. So now they're really tightening up the screws to make sure that people are completely intimidated from putting up any pro opposition content or disturbing content. But that's going to fail. According to a recent poll, 85% of Turkish people know if they put up something that can annoy Erdogan on social media, they are going to be punished. Those people are already out of the game. They have been cowed into silence and submission. The remaining 15% don't give a damn. Many of them have already been imprisoned, detained, um, paid heavy penalties. These are the committed dissidents. And a couple of years in prison is not going to change their mind. You will see. It's not going to change my mind. I'm going to say whatever I want to say. And if I get caught, well, what the hell? I mean, those are the breaks. There's nothing you can do about it. Some people care about the truth, at least their version of it, and are just extremely persistent in saying it out loud. And, you know, I, I don't consider myself brave, but there are thousands of people like that in Turkey who, despite the threat of draconian punishment, will say the truth. Two, look, you can't censor social media. The countries who do so effectively, North Korea, Russia, China, Iran, have built their internet networks based on the assumption that they will have to censor it. Because they are societies where free dissemination of information have always been forbidden or proscribed or regulated heavily. So internet to those countries came with embedded structures to automatically weed out content that's, considered harmful to the interests of the ruling elite. Turkey is not like that. Turkey simply doesn't have the woman power or the artificial intelligence capacity, the algorithm capacity to monitor the trillions of bits and pieces of information that's being posted on this 10 or so major social media platforms to weed out harmful material. You might say, well, what if they, shut off YouTube? Well, for one thing, they won't dare to do that because then they're going to lose the elections simply because you are taking, if you close social media outlets, you are taking the only free entertainment available to Turkish people. These people are already suffering from extreme poverty and 70% inflation. They're going to punish you in the polls. Two, just like in China and Russia, most of us use VPNs, virtual private networks. I am registered somewhere in Bulgaria or Mozambique. I believe it changes every day. Not because I'm afraid somebody is going to check my content or what porno I watched last night. I don't give a damn. But there are a lot of websites that you can't access if you are registered, if you have a user ID in Turkey. So I use a VPN. And millions of Turks use VPNs. So again, a lot of effort, a lot of innocent people are going to put in prison. A lot of publishing companies and independent websites are going to suffer, but at the end, nothing is going to change. If I'm shut down on YouTube, I'm going to go to Facebook video. I'm going to go to Twitter. I'm going to go to Instagram. I'm going to go to LinkedIn. And people who want to watch me will find me because I know how to uh, share information with them as to where I am the next day. So, really, I understand the loud protests by the opposition and international freedom of speech watchdogs against this bill, and they should. We should fight evil wherever and in which form it pops up into existence. But don't worry. Social media laws of any kind will not change the fact that Turkish content providers are smart enough to bypass any censorship effort. There is no embedded structure to automatically censor quote unquote harmful content. And at the end, the people of Turkey will have access to correct information or to information that is anti AKP. And at the end, Erdogan and his alliance, AKP and MHP, will end up losing next elections. Well, thank you very much. This has been another podcast, I suppose, of Real Turkey channel presented by Atilla Yeşilada. If you like it, share or put a like statement, I don't know. And I promise to shoot more videos. Maintain mental sanity. Bye bye.